Ellie adjusted the straps of her backpack and stepped past the rusted warning sign that read, Dio no TNTR, Cleosid Trail. The locals in town had warned her about hollow woods, but curiosity and clicks always won. She walked slowly, crunching dry leaves underfoot as fog settled low between the trees like breathing mist. Each step deeper made her ears ring with silence. There were no chirps, no wind, just a dead stillness. Her GPS spun wildly, showing impossible directions. She turned to look behind. The dirt trail was gone. Only thick, unfamiliar brush remained. Her stomach twisted. Trying to stay calm, Ellie scanned her surroundings. Every tree looked the same, twisted, bark peeling like flesh, tall enough to blot out the late afternoon sun. She walked where she thought the trail had been, but it only led to denser woods. The trees felt closer now, almost leaning in. Sweat clung to her back despite the sudden chill. Then, faintly, she heard it. Ellie whispered just once behind her. Her breath caught. She whipped around, heart pounding, but there was no one there. The whisper hadn't echoed. It sounded too close, too deliberate, and it was her name. She tried calling out, "Who's there?" But her voice felt smothered, as if the forest absorbed the sound. She took out her phone again. The screen flickered, then went black. Panic crept in as shadows deepened, and even the treetops above seemed to close in. Her breath turned visible, fogging in the suddenly frigid air. She forced herself forward, gripping her flashlight. As she clicked it on, a figure darted just beyond the beam. Not human, low to the ground, impossibly fast. She screamed, but again, the woods swallowed the sound. The silence afterward felt heavier than before. Rushing blindly, she tripped over a root and tumbled hard into a small clearing. When she sat up, she saw something carved into the ground. Circles overlapping in strange patterns, symbols she didn't recognize. The dirt was too dark, almost black, and pulsing faintly. She scrambled back, terrified. As she stood, the forest behind her groaned like wood under strain. She felt watched, not just by one thing, by many. The clearing around her grew darker, as if the sun itself was afraid to shine there. And again, from the trees, came the whisper, Ellie. Only this time, closer. Ellie wandered aimlessly through the dense trees, hoping for a sign of a trail, a structure, anything. Her flashlight flickered, casting brief light on twisted trunks and gnarled roots. Then, ahead in the gloom, a massive oak loomed, thicker than any she'd ever seen. Drawn to it, she approached slowly, heart thudding. Its bark was covered in carvings, names etched deep, stretching from root to canopy. Some were weathered and nearly illegible, others still fresh. Her eyes scanned the list until she froze. At the bottom, carved just moments ago, was her naming, Ellie Monroe. She hadn't done it. No one else was there. She stepped back, the trees whispering louder now. The air turned dense, heavy like a wet cloth over her face. A strange hum vibrated beneath her feet. She reached out with shaking fingers to touch her name, and the bark shifted under her touch. Warm and alive, like skin. A deep, slow pulse beat within the trunk. The tree exhaled a gust of cold air that smelled like earth and rot. Ellie staggered back as a low creaking groan echoed from above, like wood protesting under strain. She looked up. High above, several of the carved names bled, sapped the color of rusted blood, trickling downward in narrow streams. She turned to run, but found the forest behind her had rearranged itself. The trees had shifted closer, gnarled branches bent inward like skeletal arms. She moved fast, darting between trunks, her breath shallow and ragged. With each step, more names echoed faintly through the air, whispered by unseen mouths. Names she remembered from missing person cases. Caleb, Madisong, Jonab. They grew louder as she ran, becoming a chorus of loss and dread. Thing, Ellie, whispered again, from every direction. her head throb. It felt like her name was being pulled from her body, piece by piece. She stumbled into another narrow clearing and dropped to her knees. Beneath her were more carvings, this time in stone, ancient runes she couldn't decipher. A wooden totem stood crooked at the center, its face crude and eyeless, yet staring directly at her. Around its base, forest offerings, teeth, bones, and withered flowers. She realized these weren't warnings. They were tributes. A cold hand brushed her hair from behind. Ellie screamed and spun around, but no one was there. Just the tree line, darker now, closing in. The forest had spoken, and it had remembered her name. Ellie stumbled deeper into the woods, the light fading into an unnatural twilight. Just when her legs were about to give out, she saw it. A crooked wooden structure half buried in overgrowth. A cabin. Relief surged through her as she hurried toward it. But her steps slowed when she noticed something strange. There were no windows, no chimney, no door, just 4 decaying walls and a sagging roof, somehow intact despite the years. Moss clung to the rotting wood like a second skin. She circled it, searching for any opening, but the cabin had no entrance. Just a feeling, a pull, like it wanted her to find a way in. Desperate for shelter, Ellie tapped the wall with a stick. The wood gave slightly, not like wood at all, more like damp cloth stretched over a hollow frame. She stepped back as it rippled outward in a wave. Something inside had moved. Not light, not shadow, something alive. She pressed her ear to the wall, muffled breathing, slow and steady, not her own. Then a voice whispered from within, "Come inside." Ellie staggered back, her skin crawling. The forest behind her creaked and groaned, as if urging her forward. She didn't want to listen, but something in her feet moved on their own. Against her will, her hand rose and pressed to the wall again. This time, it opened like soft flesh, parting with a wet sound. She stepped through without meaning to, swallowed by the darkness. Inside, it was impossibly large. Not a cabin, but a void of tall wooden walls stretching into nothing. The air was thick with mold and decay. Strange objects lined the wall-sewed dolls without eyes. Broken clocks, jars of black liquid. At the center, a wooden chair faced the corner. On it sat a figure, unmoving, draped in cloth. Ellie couldn't see its face, but she felt it watching her. The door vanished behind her. She reached back and touched only solid wall. The room pulsed like a living lung, breathing around her. The figure in the chair slowly turned its head, revealing a burlap, wrapped face stitched tightly shut. But its mouth still moved beneath the cloth. "You're already part of it," it rasped. The air turned freezing. Ellie backed away, but the walls expanded, stretching endlessly into darkness. Whispers rose around her, chanting names, hers among them. The forest hadn't trapped her. It had delivered her. The cabin hadn't wanted her to enter. It had been waiting for her all along. Ellie bolted from the unnatural cabin, the walls seeming to sigh as she slipped out through a knot in the wood. The moment she was free, the structure sank into the earth without a sound, as though it had never been. She stood trembling in the moonlight, its pale glow turning the trees silver and unreal. Then the forest spoke, not in words, but in groans of bark, creaks of limbs, and rustling leaves that whispered secrets older than language. The wind curled around her like breath, tugging her hair, brushing her neck, and humming her name. Every tree she passed tilted slightly, as if listening or leaning closer. Beneath her feet, the ground trembled gently. Roots shifted just below the surface, forming patterns. Glyphs of warning or welcome, she couldn't tell. Her flashlight sputtered and died, yet her path lit faintly on its own, guided by the glow of mushrooms pulsing with dim, sickly light. Somewhere to her right, laughter echoed, not joyous, but hollow, broken, as though someone had forgotten how to laugh but still tried. Ellie turned sharply but saw no one. The forest no longer pretended to be still. It breathed, it watched, and it whispered with voices that weren't entirely human. She stumbled forward until she found herself in another clearing. This one ringed with dead trees, their bark peeled away like skin. In the center, a pool of black water shimmered without reflection. As she approached, the surface stirred, not from wind but from something beneath. The whispers grew clearer, forming fragments. Return, feed, remember. Ellie fell to her knees, drawn by something deep within the pool. Her fingers trembled as they reached the edge. Beneath the surface, dozens of faces stared back, pale, eyeless, frozen in silent screams. One of them was hers, already fading into the others. Ellie screamed and crawled backward, her mind spinning. The forest responded with a groan of deep wood and rising wind. Branches above her twisted into a spiral, framing the moon like a lid slowly closing. Every sound in the forest fell silent. Then the voice returned, low, ancient, and inside her mind this time. You were chosen long ago. Her breath caught. All this time she thought she was lost, wandering. But the forest had known her, waited for her. It wasn't punishing her, it was claiming her. As she stood in the ring of trees, the earth opened wide and welcomed her home. Ellie fell through darkness, not just a lack of light, but a void where time, sound, and thought dissolved. She landed in silence, surrounded by trees that stretched endlessly in all directions. Their trunks twisted like they'd been screaming for centuries. At their base stood figures, still, tall, faceless, the hollow ones. Their heads were smooth and round, no mouths, no eyes, yet Ellie felt them watching. They didn't move, but the forest shifted with each heartbeat, drawing closer. One stepped forward, its chest creaking open like a door. Inside was only blackness. But Ellie saw something impossible. A memory that wasn't hers, a life that wasn't hers. She staggered back, heart pounding, but the forest offered no exit. Instead, roots coiled around her ankles, gently pulling her toward the hollow one. The voices returned, layered, soft, seductive. No more pain. Past just belong. As the figure touched her forehead, images flooded her. Strangers walking into the woods and never leaving. A spiral of time repeating, lives consumed and erased. She felt her own memories fray. Her name, her face, her family, dissolving like ink in water. Her screams were silent, caught somewhere inside her as the hollow one opened wider to receive her. Then, Ellie heard a crack, sharp, alive. A single tree split in two nearby, its trunk forming a crude doorway. Light poured in, warm, golden, real. For the first time, she had a choice. Stay and vanish into the hollow, or run toward the unknown light. Her feet moved without her will, but the hollow ones reacted too. Dozens began gliding forward, no footsteps, just momentum. As Ellie bolted toward the light, the air thickened. It felt like running through water. Her limbs slowed, every step fighting against something pulling her back. Memories, guilt, and the forest's will. She crossed the threshold with a scream. The light devoured the shadows, and everything went white. When Ellie awoke, she was lying beside a road just outside the woods, gasping, covered in dirt and leaves. But something had changed. Her reflection in the nearby puddle showed her eyes. Duller, deeper, almost empty. Behind her, the forest loomed, quiet again. But the whisper stayed in her urge. You left, but not all of you. As she stumbled away, the trees behind her shifted. One more hollow one now stood silently among them, with her face,